It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him to the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, have you demanded a trade yet, a la Julio Jones?
Well, I'll tell you what, I was on the phone with somebody earlier, and it turns out right before they hung up, they let me know that I was apparently on the air in front of millions of people. So I'm not exactly sure what I said while I was on air.
I cannot comment on that because we happen to share the same agent. So don't want to say anything negatory. We should talk about this Julio Jones thing because sounds like Julio Jones wants to be traded. There was a picture of him just a couple days ago wearing a Cowboys sweatshirt, and then on this TV program he says, "No, I don't want to go to Dallas." Just general thoughts on this whole Julio saga right now.
I mean, it's funny. It's look. I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan, you've dealt with something like this long enough. Enough times that you've seen this film play out before. Yeah, I it sounds like Julio was in town working out with Cooper, and not surprising, two Alabama guys working out together, and he had a Cowboys sweatshirt on. I think we know how that is. Well, and then
I also want really quickly, he was not working out at the Star. I know there's some reports of that because he's not allowed to.
Yeah,
now,
exactly.
In a certain quarterback's backyard, that's totally legal. But go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like was happening, right? And so that, and then this morning, they Colin Cowherd and Shannon Sharp.
Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless. But it doesn't
Skip Bayless. Six one, half dozen the other to me. I don't watch. So I got the Shannon Sharp part right. Shannon, because Shannon was actually and I guess I did miss the front part of this. Did Shannon call him or did Julio call him back?
No. Shannon called him on live TV.
So Shannon called him on live TV. So basically,
I don't think Julio knew. Knew.
Yeah, that's the thing that's really fascinating is that it does seem like there wasn't any kind of indication from Shannon that they were on air until like right before they hung up, right? Like, oh, by the way, we're on the air. I'll see you later. Boom, like hung up the phone, like. So yeah, I mean, I guess we need to talk about the comments. Basically, Shannon implying that asking if he wanted to go to the Cowboys, obviously because of the sweatshirt that had happened. Picture that had happened yesterday. Shannon, Julio making it clear that wasn't in the cards and that he wasn't interested. And then Shannon obviously taking some digs at the Cowboys. And I mean, we could talk about the Peter King aspect of that in a little bit, but yeah, it's my thought process is, and I just tweeted this out. It's like the Bane meme, right? Like you were born, you got used to the darkness. We were born and bred in this, and like kind of media nonsense that flies towards the Cowboys constantly. And this is just one of those things where, there's a player who is unhappy with his current situation. He's likely going to get traded, or at least there's lots of conversation about him being traded. Of course, the Cowboys are going to be included. Of course they are, because whenever you include the Dallas Cowboys in any kind of conversation around any player, it's guaranteed to give your views on whatever platform you're on a huge boost. So I'm assuming that that's all there is. There's not a ton of room at the end. There's not a ton of money for the Cowboys to do something like this. I don't even think there's a ton of interest, honestly. But it's fodder for a Monday where there's not a ton of other football news going on.
I imagine that he will get dealt, assuming after this June 1st deadline, where it just makes it a little easier to trade him. I did propose to trade Landon on Twitter just to see like what people thought. Like, if the Cowboys wanted to like flip an expiring wide receiver asset in Michael Gallup, who could help Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley right away. I think that makes sense. I don't know if Atlanta would say yes, because my guess is they want draft picks. They want draft picks because they want to probably build for the future, right? Maybe if it's getting their next quarterback.
Do they?
But I have no idea.
Going on with Atlanta? I mean, like that's the other interesting part about this whole story is what the heck is going on with Atlanta? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't. I would be really frustrated as an Atlanta fan right now looking at this because it's like, okay, are we loading up for this year for one more year of Matt Ryan, or are we trying to like build for the future? Why does it feel like that? Why does it feel like they're kind of straddling the line between both? I would be frustrated.
I don't understand. I don't know what the plan is. And that's, I think, again, according to Adam Schefter, it was Julio Jones that actually asked for a trade a couple of months ago. This isn't the Falcons wanting to move him. I think they got in a tough spot. They know that they're somewhat transitioning to a different offense with new head coach Arthur Smith. I don't know, but in my hypothetical trade, Landon, 54 was going to Atlanta. He would look very nice in black and red to save the Cowboys some cap space. But we
just trying to solve Cowboys problems at this point. You're not you're not helping the Falcons at all. You're just solving Cowboys problems.
Yeah, no, it's not. Just gut call. Where do you think Julio ends up?
San Francisco. I mean,
see, that's my guess as well, right?
I don't like it, but
go back with Kyle Shanahan, go to an offense that uses a ton of play action and crossing routes. That does feel likely. I saw a report that they would like to not trade him to an NFC team. So
good.
Maybe the Colts, maybe the Chargers, John Gruden. You never know with the Raiders. Who knows? But those would be the teams that I think are very likely for Julio. I think we should start talking about some actual Cowboys news. Landon, what do you think?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do that. But before we do that, I want to take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. Real chocolate, amazing flavors, and just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON15 and you'll get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, the Cowboys held a workout for Brett Hundley on Friday. According to a couple different people, including Michael Galkin, the workout went extremely well. He threw the ball well in the session that they had, but it doesn't appear the Cowboys are going to sign him anytime soon. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I guess what's going on now is that they kind of are going to give some of these guys, like the Garrett Gilberts, the Cooper Rushes, maybe they're going to give them an opportunity. DiNucci as well. They're going to give them an opportunity to kind of see what they've got in training camp, at least early on. I think they probably feel good about Hundley's knowledge of McCarthy's offense. And I mean, I think kind of catching up to what Kellen Moore does inside of that shouldn't be too difficult. It could be just that they're waiting to give these younger guys a little bit more opportunity in OTAs and training camp and to see what they've got before they decide to kind of commit to a Hundley.
Which is smart. I think it's smart, right? Because you don't need Hundley to take a lot of reps. He already knows his offense. I would rather see Garrett Gilbert get all of these OTA snaps because he's already under contract and played well last year.
And it's cheaper. Like if you can get by, if you think that Gilbert is good enough to get by with this season, then that's just the little money that you don't have to spend on a Brett Hundley. So I think that they're looking to save money wherever they can at this point. In a backup quarterback situation, there's a pretty penny to save between a kind of unproven Garrett Gilbert, if you think he can step up to that, versus a guy like Brett Hundley, who's been a backup, for multiple years and is probably going to command a little bit more money. So I would imagine that they're going to give these guys, and it's going to be like that on a lot of different fronts, I imagine, with training camp at OTA. They're going to give these young guys a chance to do it and to fail. And if they do fail, then if we have to replace them with veterans, they'll spend the money. But they'd rather have the cheaper option, the younger option that can develop and grow into the role, as opposed to having to pay for a proven commodity, especially at a position that it is literally a backup, and you're hoping they never even see the field.
I wouldn't even be surprised if they're doing something similar at like defensive tackle, right? Because there's guys out there between Gerald McCoy. I believe Geno Atkins is still a free agent. Sheldon Richardson, K'Wan Short. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys have interest in one of those 4 guys, but it really makes no sense to sign them now, right? Like, let them get healthy, give them the summer off. Let's see what DeVille Gallimore looks like. Let's see how Tristan Hill's rehab is coming. And if we feel like we need that guy, maybe even after week 1, once the salaries aren't guaranteed, then we can bring him in.
Yeah.
But to go back to the quarterback part of this, I just think the Cowboys are updating their emergency contact list, right? They brought in Jeff Driscoll. Was that 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks,
whatever.
I think, yeah.
2 weeks ago, brought in Brett Hundley. And I even feel like JT Barrett, who they had at rookie mini camps, was sort of the same way. Bring him in, let him throw around a little bit. Hey, we're not going to sign you now, but don't be surprised if we call you down the road. I just think that's what smart teams do at this point in time. So there's just no reason to sign these guys. They're not playing a game this week. They don't need them.
Yeah, no one under the age of 30 is going to know this reference, but they're updating their Rolodexes, right? They're making sure they have these guys' phone numbers, their information. They want to have an idea of what they look like working out. They'll put them through their own workouts so they can make throws that they would be making if they were playing in the Cowboys offense. And then they said, okay, great, we've got you on file. If we need you, we'll call you. And then they basically have that guy on file. And so, if midweek Garrett Gilbert or someone gets hurt, they don't need to bring a guy in for a workout in a short amount of time. You have an idea who this guy is. You just bring him in, sign him, and he could be in practice the next day.
Again, I'm going to keep harping on this, but there's a lot of value to these teams that are cash strapped. They're, cap space tight, where don't have them on your roster in week 1, but immediately sign them after week 1 because now their salaries aren't guaranteed for a whole season. And players like Jeff Driscoll and Brett Hundley, while they've never been long-term starters, they've been in the league long enough where the vet minimum salary is significantly higher than what a Garrett Gilbert or a Ben DiNucci or a Cooper Rush is. So there's really a lot of value in waiting. And hey, if we need a guy after week 1, we can pick him up and pay him week by week. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to sign that guy right now.
The real thing, again, and we're going to harp on this in a lot of different ways, but the key thing to remember is that you're not making your game day 53-man roster right now.
No,
you're not doing that until September. So a lot of these roster moves, a lot of these tire kickings, it's all just conjecture until it's time to actually cut down folks and acquire talent to play football games. So there's nothing to get too worked up about them not signing or them signing this. Let's wait until it's actual time to start playing football games. I agree. I think that first day of the regular season is a huge line of demarcation for a lot of teams.
Yep.
So and not just in a I'm going to sign you now way, but also in I'm going to cut you now sort of way. So there's going to be a lot of roster movement still left to be done on the other side of training camp. A lot of veterans that'll get signed to teams like the Cowboys. So let's hold our water on exactly, deciding on whether this is the actual unit that will end up playing football for the Cowboys on Sundays, because there's still a lot of moves left to be done.
All right, Landon, we're going to talk about my favorite thing in the world in just a second, power rankings from people in the media. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys about Rockauto.com. It's a family business serving auto parts to customers online for over 20 years. They have everything from engine control modules and brake parts, motor oil, and even new carpet. Whether it's for your classic or your daily driver, get everything you need in a few easy clicks delivered directly to your door. The Rockauto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose the brand, specifications, and prices that you prefer. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com today. All right, Landon, this is going to be so much fun. So today, Peter King had his first power rankings of the year out, and it was fun. Let's go through the NFC East, Landon, because it's absolutely incredible. At number 15 was the Washington football team, the division winner from last year. Then the New York Giants were at 20, and your Dallas Cowboys at number 21. So first and foremost, what are your thoughts on the Cowboys coming in at 21 in his power rankings?
Well, first and foremost, why are they just my Dallas Cowboys when they're ranked 21st on Peter King's power rankings? Are they not still our Cowboys?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I was gonna say, when you started saying this is your favorite thing, I assumed we were gonna start talking about Pittsburgh Steelers football. Is what was gonna go on.
No, they were at 19, so don't worry. We're all
my
in misery
God. First of all, power rankings this early are ridiculous. And Peter King knows that, but he's been doing it every single year for 75 years, however long Peter King's been writing about football.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get too mad about it, but I mean, this is just the Cowboys ranking is about as ridiculous as power rankings pre-training camp football. Like, it's the Cowboys being 21st. Obviously I strongly disagree, Peter. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like,
do you think they're closer to 10 or do you think they're closer to 20?
I think they're closer to 10 than they are to 20 for sure.
I would agree.
It's an offensive league. They're going to have one of the best offenses in football. I mean,
and Peter King even acknowledges that. He said the best player in the NFC East returns this year in Dak Prescott. It seems like that should be enough to boost you ahead of some of the other teams.
Plays quarterback, you say? Wow. And,
yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I obviously a lot of this is also for clicks too. So I'm not going to get too worked up about it because, again, it's not it's a silly exercise to begin with because we don't even know what these teams are going to look like.
Yeah.
And so I say that it doesn't have a ton of value, and I think it's probably designed to get people worked up and talking about it on a Monday morning when there's not a lot to talk about. So
on a podcast such as this.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are. Look, I think the Cowboys offense is going to be one of the best in the league. I think it's going to be top 5, top 3. It could be the best offense in football. I think it's not outside the realm of possibility with the talent that this group has. We don't know what the defense is. The defense is a large unknown. I think you could say that it's going to be terrible, and I could say that it's going to be good. And I think that we are equally as knowledgeable of how it's going to turn out. So it doesn't really matter, right?
Okay. So just really quickly, this is an aside. So one of the reasons why Peter King loves Washington and the Giants is he believes both of those teams are going to have great defenses this year.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that, Landon, is I don't want to say defenses don't matter because that's a little strong.
Oh my God, we are creeping ever so closer. I forgot to go to GoDaddy and get players don't matter, but we are increasing so close.
But your defense is really only as good as the offenses that you're going against every week, and more specifically, the quarterbacks that you play every week, right? Like,
and good defenses are incredibly difficult to sustain year to year.
Well,
incredibly.
And there's so many different reasons why, right? Like, we can look at it just from your strength of schedule, right? If you play a top quarterback every week, I got a feeling you're not going to only give up 19, 20 points a game. Like, you're going to give up a bunch of points. And then on top of that, Landon, a defense has 11 starters, obviously, and then you have 5, 6 other guys that rotate in. Well, injuries can be absolutely devastating on that side of the ball, right? Like we saw it last year at corner, right? The Cowboys lost 3 corners early on in the season. And it doesn't matter how good the rest of your defense is. Your defense is really only as good as the weakest spot, right? Because if you're weak at corners, okay, we're just going to attack those corners over and over and over. There's really not a lot you can do about it. It's why every year we see so much turnover at the top when it comes to defenses. Even the really good defenses like the Pittsburgh Steelers, which second time they got mentioned in the show, were horrendous in 2017 and 2018. The personnel didn't change in 2019 and 2020. Just the strength of the schedule got easier, right? And they stayed a little bit healthier. That's just the way defense is in the NFL. You're going to be way more consistent year to year if you have a top offense rather than a top defense.
Yeah, and I think even with as good a defense as we expect Washington to be, they still don't have a quarterback. They still, Fitzpatrick is still Fitzpatrick. He's not going to be a consistent enough player. No. I don't think that I'm speaking out of turn. He's been in the league for however long he's been in the league. He's the same guy. So, I think he'll lead them to some victories here and there because that's what he does. Mm-hmm. But he's not enough of a bus driver to keep Washington's defense out of trouble. And they will get overexposed at some point. And as far as New York goes, I mean, that's
the
just
defense just isn't as good, right? It's just a lesser version of watching.
The defense is not that good, and the offense is terrible. The offense is worse than our defense.
I mean, I know they've got big names on offense, right? Like if you look at the depth, this is the problem, right? Teams look at depth charts at the beginning of a year, and that's how we power rank stuff. Like, hey, they've got Saquon Barkley and Kenny Golladay, and Evan Ingram was a Pro Bowler last year. Now they added Kyle Rudolph, who was a Pro Bowler. This offense should be really, really good. But then you remember Jason Garrett's coaching the offense, and they still have Daniel Jones at quarterback. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, they got Kadarius Toney. Well, I can't wait to see what Garrett does with Kadarius Toney.
It'll be really fun on those 3 ghost jet sweeps a game.
Yeah, it's just so I just don't know that, like, I have a hard time, taking that stuff seriously because anyone seriously doing this would not be putting out a power ranking. I mean, again, Peter King is doing work. That's his job. But anyone who's doing this seriously wouldn't be doing this now. So it's hard for me to take the results seriously, especially, again, like the methodology there. I get the methodology is about as sound as, doing a power rankings pre-training camp. It doesn't really make a ton of sense.
Luckily, these power rankings don't decide who actually wins the games or not. So you can rest easy. It's not a big deal. It's fun to read them. But don't put any stock in them. That's it. I just like debating these because they're fun, and I know how much it irritates you.
It's something to talk about for sure. But yeah, it is. It's just designed to get people irritated, specifically me, I think.
It's something to talk about on a Monday in late May. It's absolutely fantastic. Busy week of shows. We got Twitter Tuesday coming up. We've got some really special segments and guests coming up over the next couple of weeks and months. So make sure you guys are downloading, subscribing to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Audacity, Spotify, wherever you can get your podcasts. I know there's been some problems with a couple of these sites right now. So if you're having trouble downloading, go to YouTube, where our show's on every single day at 3 p.m. Eastern time. You can go to WFAA and check out the show. Make sure you follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you guys next time.